You retired from dancing at the age of 23. Take us through why you decided to retire.
Oh, this is a bit of a sore spot, but let's go there for sure. I was in New York and I was auditioning. It was an open call audition for The Lion King, and I was there with one of my girlfriends. And at the time, I was the age of 23. And the choreographer asked us to run up the wall and do a triple backflip. And unfortunately,
So sorry, can you say that again? Because I'm thinking like like a kung fu action movie where someone
correct.
forces you to run to the wall, you run up it, and then do a triple backflip. Not like you just flip over
Yeah,
once.
it was either a double. I mean, I might be exaggerating
Well, I
now.
mean,
It was either a backflip or a double or something absolutely outside of anything that I had ever learned. Because unfortunately, growing up for myself in dance, acro, as they call it now, was not part of the curriculum. So we didn't learn acrobatics, and so all of a sudden you had this new generation that was coming in with basically the same experience that I had, but now layering on acro to that, where they're flipping backwards and forwards and sideways into splits. And it was the moment in time that I looked at my friend who was at the audition with me and I said, I've aged myself out. I realized at that moment I was going to be hitting my head against a brick wall because I was no longer going to be able to compete at that level. And so I remember leaving the audition, tail between my legs, getting on the train, calling my mom and dad. And I think my dad was actually heartbroken because he was one of my biggest champions alongside my entire family. But I think my dad was a little heartbroken when I said, it's time for me to retire. And I knew it. I knew it in my heart of hearts.
do you harbor any sort of resentment immediately? Like the day after you retire, do you find yourself distancing yourself from dancing a little bit, saying, you know what, maybe I just need to take a break from this? I don't know if mourning is the right word, but you know what I mean, where it's just kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
I've given something up. I'm just going to take a break and maybe I'll rediscover it at some point in some way later on.
Well, that happened this year. I actually, that day, the day I got home is the day I actually never looked back. And it was, yes, definitely a sore spot for me. There was a lot of, as you call it, mourning. I think it was disappointment. And not necessarily in myself, the disappointment of other people. And how everyone else had felt about it. So it took me a bit to get over it. And, at 23 retiring and now just picking it back up again at the age of 49, that says a lot, right? It was a sore spot for quite some time.
Was it a little bit liberating though? Because now you could look at your life and go, I get to try something new. Like, was there some sort of experimental period after retirement where you said, maybe I'm going to try this or maybe I'm going to try that?
In all honesty, Victor, I didn't even know what to do because it's sort of like when you think about anyone who's, let's say, a professional athlete and they retire. It's what do you do next when that's all you've known? And I struggled for quite some time because I was waitressing to, pay the bills, and I needed the flexibility to be able to audition. And I hadn't focused necessarily on academics in the way that, a lot of, let's call it traditional media people do. Mine was definitely practical in terms of experience of understanding rejection really, really well. Um, but yeah, it was a tough transition period because I had to reinvent myself. I had to find out what I liked, what I wanted to do. So there was a lot of excitement in that, but there was also a lot of anxiety because when you put all of your eggs in one basket, that's unfortunately the nature of the beast. Is everything that's great comes to an end, and I wasn't prepared for that.
So it didn't sound like it felt like an adventure at the beginning.
Oh no, absolutely. Full transparency, absolutely not. There was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of nervousness. There was a lot of I don't know what to do with my life. And then in walked, Vernico Communications.